So we are going to go ahead and call the Becker City Council meeting for December 15th, 2020 to order, and I will go ahead and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from December 1st? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
This is Becky. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Mike. I'll second it.
Motion from Becky, second from Mike. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye. Oh, Robin, you're on mute.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. And just for our participants, remember the City Council will state their name while making a motion and a second, and then any actions that are foreseen for this evening. They'll use their name to identify what they would like to do. And while voting takes place as a roll call vote this evening, because we are on Zoom meeting, I will begin with the voting, stating my name and my position, and it'll rotate to the left on the dais as we normally sit. So it'll go to me, to Robin, Mike, and to Becky. All right, any additional items for this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the set agenda.
I'll make a motion. This is Mike. I move we approve the agenda as presented.
This is Robin. I will second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any other discussion? With none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Any guests in open forum? I'll instruct the operator to open the line. Anyone wishing to comment during the open forum must provide their name with a spelling, their address, and phone number, and we will go ahead and open for open forum at this time. Julie, has anybody notified you that they would be here for open forum?
I was not notified of anyone.
All right. Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close the open forum. Moving on to committee reports. Personnel.
Okay, so we met last Thursday. Basically, what I'm saying you're going to see in the consent agenda tonight, but we talked about making changes in the maintenance workers' job descriptions. We reviewed hiring for a new full-time employee for Public Works, and we also reviewed an updated job description for the lead position with Parks and Streets. And like I said, we'll go through it on the consent agenda. So that's about it.
All right, any other committee reports that took place? No? All right, we'll move on to public hearings. So city fee schedule with Ms. Bleasy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight for consideration is Ordinance 230, addressing the city's fee schedule for 2021. All the changes are listed in the memo presented in the council packet for tonight's meeting. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them for you tonight. The first one being the miscellaneous fees, removal of commercial compost cards. Sherburne County and the 4 host cities for compost sites agreed to no longer accept the commercial haulers for the site. A couple of the reasons were the possible spread of invasive species, as well as the rising costs associated with the grinding and disposing of the material. The second one I'll highlight is under utility-related fees. There, an increase to the water and sewer installation inspection fee from $100 to $150. This new home construction fee was previously split between the building permit and the utility bill. To avoid confusion, it will now be charged entirely on the building permit. And then finally, under charges for services, the utility rates were increased by 2% as proposed in the 2016 utility rate study. So all the other changes listed were minor word corrections with no increases to the associated fees. So So I'll take any questions. Otherwise, I'll ask council to open the hearing.
All right, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 5:07 this evening. Is there anyone on the line that wishes to address the fee schedule for the 2021? Does council have any questions for any of the staff?
Yes, Julie, what was that about the cards at the compost sites?
The compost sites, so the Sherburne County and all of the cities who host the sites got together and they discussed it, and because of rising costs for commercial users for using it, the grinding and the disposing of the material and such, they have decided to keep it more as a residential type use, which was the original purpose for it. So we'll no longer be offering the commercial compost cards.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said. That's why I asked you. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from council or any public? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Mike. I move to close the public hearing.
This is Becky. I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, I.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Public hearing is now closed at 5:08. How does council wish to proceed on the ordinance?
This is Mike. I make a motion. We approve, let's see, resolution. Where are we here?
Ordinance 230, second series.
Oh, yeah, ordinance 230, second series.
This is Robin, I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, I.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Could I have a motion for the ordinance summary for publication purposes?
This is Mike. I'll make a motion. We, for the, publish a summary for the ordinance. Ordinance number 230, second series.
This is Becky. And
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Any discussion on the summary? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, I.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. On to board, committee, and consultant reports. The revolving capital interest fund balance policy with Mrs. Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight before you is the revolving capital insurance fund balance policy. So we do have a revolving capital insurance account, and that was established to cover our insurance deductibles for claims and to cover the component of self-insurance for incidents that don't meet our higher deductible. And so tonight, what I'd like to propose is the $1 million to maintain $1 million balance in the revolving capital account. We've discussed this at Budget and Finance, and so the policy outlines how this will be done and how the funds are taken in and so forth. So if you have any questions, I can take those right now, but right now, I guess a motion and a second to approve the revolving capital insurance fund balance policy would be appreciated.
Does council have any questions for Ms. Robinson?
You're looking for approval of the policy?
Of the policy, yes.
Okay, I'll make that a motion. This is Mike.
Robin, I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any discussion? This has been cleared through Budget and Finance. Is that where it initiated? Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, I.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The trail along County Road 53 to Snuffy's Landing with Mr. Knutson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Before you tonight, we have a resolution in support of the proposed trail along County Road 53. As you recall, we did submit for a transportation grant through MnDOT for that trail. And part of the trail, or part of the grant application, we need to show support or ask council to show support for ongoing maintenance of the trail, as well as the local match opportunity. I did call that out. So our local contribution could be up to $170,000, which we do have set aside in our CIP should we get the grant for this project. Sherburne County is the sponsoring agency. Since we're not a state aid city, we cannot sponsor the grant application ourselves, but Sherburne County has agreed to do that for us, just like they did on the County Road 24 trail a couple of years back. So the board did approve a similar resolution showing support and sponsoring of this grant. So tonight we're asking for City Council to signify their support through resolution, again, for the ongoing maintenance of the trail, as well as the local contribution of funds for the trail should it be approved.
Phil, I'll tell you, this is the hardest thing for me. It's visioning this trail that the concept just, in my mind, just doesn't connect anywhere.
And we understand that as staff, when we looked at this, we really just looked at it from a realization of the opportunity. With the transportation grant being there, you could look at it as a trail that leads to nowhere, but the opportunity with County Road 53 being rebuilt and the trail being able to go there, it's a portion of it. It's estimated to be a $850,000 trail to get out to that park. And with the work that we're trying to do with the Lions and really putting some bigger capital investments into the park, we see a bigger and broader activity range going out there. As development increases in that region, we would like to see a continuous trail become part of the whole structure and connecting more of our usage. So we understand that, and that's why we're looking at this. And if we get the grant, we'd have a decision to make. You guys can either accept that or we can pass on it as well at that point. So,
Okay, that was my question, is if we do apply for the grant and get it, do we have to use it?
no, you guys can.
Because I agree with the mayor, I have a problem with the trail going nowhere.
Yeah, if we do get the grant, if it's awarded to us, it would have to come back to you guys for acceptance on that, on the grant.
And maybe this is a great opportunity to maybe partner with the township or the county a little bit more, knowing that the households that are out on that side of Highway 10 are more township driven. Maybe we could do a collaboration or something that I think that may help ease my mind on the trail to nowhere.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that, just to get your head around it as well, that we've talked with XL Energy as well as Sherburne County in using that wild and scenic along the Mississippi. It was proposed many years ago to connect a trail along that, more of a native trail. We've looked at using that with Ridgeview Park and Big Oaks as well, trying to connect a larger regional trail along the river with the decommissioning coming forward, that buffer property no longer being as secure per se. There is an opportunity down the road that we've planted that seed and will continue to nurture that seed, if you will, that we would have a nice trail that would go, I mean, that's miles of trail along the Mississippi that could be resurrected and brought forth again. But some of this is years in the making, and this is an overall encompassing. So the timing isn't great because you got to start the trail someplace. You'd always like to start the trailhead in your community and work out towards the park. But staff has just looked at this as a great opportunity to capture this portion if the opportunity is there.
What is the time frame if this is approved and we get the grant? What is the time frame that we're looking at to actually be building a trail?
The grant funding is dedicated for 2024, but you could pull it in sooner if the
No,
project.
I'm
is
thinking later.
Yeah, so you, again, if we got that, the road construction goes in the next 12 to 18 months, we wouldn't even, we would know awarding next year at some time. The grant has to be in by January of 2021. But like I said, it called out for funds payable in 2024, but we could apply to move those up, or we could apply for a 1-year extension potentially as well.
I mean, the day is coming when, actually, I don't look at it from a trail to nowhere. I look at it from a trail from nowhere. It's going to Snuffy's Landings. I mean, it's going to a good place. There's no question about that. It's just we're like ahead of the time. And, you know, if this goes out to 2024, who knows what's going to happen by then? I mean, we could have all kinds of activity or no activity. I don't think, you know, you just don't know. So I guess it doesn't hurt to apply for it. And if we get it, we get it. And if we don't, then we're worrying for nothing.
And to your point, Mike, if we do not get this grant for the trail, staff would not bring it back to you and say, hey, we'd like to still build this trail. We're just seizing on an opportunity to make this happen. So,
right. Yeah, without grant money, I wouldn't even consider it, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I unless somebody else has some other questions, I guess I'd make a motion to, this is Mike, make a motion to do the application for the grant.
This is Robin. I'll second that.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, I.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes.
thank you, Council.
All right, Phil, solar power agreement.
And before I get started, I will apologize to all of you for sending out some lengthy documents very late in the game here. As you know, we've been working on a potential solar project at our wastewater treatment facility for quite some time now. The whole purpose of this is putting an array on our own property that will plug right into our infrastructure. And the power produced is about 1/3 of what we actually use at the plant. So it makes it very favorable in the eyes of Xcel Energy because it's not going on their grid. It doesn't do anything to their cost structure. It just reduces the amount of power that we use from them. So it's projects like this that they support. We've reached out to them to let them know what we're thinking about doing, and they have shown favor and support of what our project is. And looking at that, the hard part is that we as a government entity we could, but we don't want to own the project outright because the tax credits on there don't apply to us. And for us to, we need to get the Xcel Energy demand credit charges. That's what makes it financially viable for us to pull this whole thing off. So what we've got in front of you is 2 different number scenarios. Because we have 2 different meters out there, we're running 2 different it's one solar array, but 2 different power connections that'll offset 2 different Xcel Energy meters. When you combine both of those together over the 25-year life of this project, it's anticipated to save the city about $400,000 in energy costs. We feel that that's a pretty conservative estimate. We took the annual inflator of Xcel Energy's rates at 3% and extrapolated those out over the course of the 25 years. We've locked into a 1% escalator on our power agreement charges that would go with the solar array. And we've not even looked at changing our operating use. We feel that we can do some stuff a little bit differently to decrease our overall demand charges as well. So with that, there's several documents that encompass this. One of them is showing you the numbers on the power agreement. We would ask you to sign the power agreement or allow us to sign the power agreement, as well as a site lease agreement, because the name here, New Energy Equity LLC would be the owner of the solar array. They would have a lease agreement with us to place it on our property. And then we would have a power agreement that we're going to purchase all of the power that that array produces, and that it'll just offset our energy bill. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. We are bringing a resolution to you tonight, 20-103, asking for your support of this project and allowing us to sign the agreements pending legal approval on that. Now, I will tell you that right before this meeting started, I did see an email come from our legal department. I did not have a chance to take a look at it. So I will report back to council, should you approve this, with any questions, concerns, or changes that they have to the agreement to make sure that you guys are all up to speed on it.
Question, this is Mike. Does any of this have to go through the Public Utilities Commission or anything?
It does not.
Okay.
And knowing how much energy we use over at the wastewater treatment facility, I can see that this would be definitely beneficial to us.
And one thing to keep in mind with that as well, by approving the agreement, it's not like they would come in and start construction right away in the spring. They do have a time for, I believe it's a maximum of 2 years to do the construction project. What we're fighting right now is that currently, to make the numbers work from an investment standpoint, the tax credit is currently at 26% for them. It changes in 2021 to 22%. So all of our numbers that we've been working off of would change. That's why this came in so late. We were trying to find an investor, and the delay on the investor side was that they needed to secure solar panels at a rate that they could lock into, knowing that their numbers on their side of the ledger make sense as well. So I think it's a great project. Wastewater treatment facilities, by their nature, are very energy intense as far as what they're using. So any way that we can come in and save, $15,000 annually on our operating expenses, I would bring it to you folks to review and take a look at. On top of that, it's a pretty cool story to tell as well.
Bill, can I ask a question? This is Robin. What
Absolutely.
happens at the end of the agreement? Then who owns these panels?
The contract as it's written right now is a 25-year term. There is a renewal option. How the IRS requires these to be written, you can't do the old dollar buyout capital lease. It's the IRS frowns on that right now, the way they've got them set up. So there is an option in there that would call for up to 3 5-year additional terms. We would document it as such that we have no interest in extending the life of that. The option that's there is that at 25 years, we tell them to come pick up their stuff and get it off of our property. Now, most investors aren't going to do that. They would rather give it to us. So I'll more than likely be able to get it for $1. We just can't put that in writing because the cost of them removing it is going to be very expensive. But the value to us, even including the degradation numbers that we've got marked in this, we're still going to produce about 85 to 90% of the initial energy capacity. And at that point in time, the city will be getting it almost free. It's not going to cost us a whole lot. There might be a little maintenance infrastructure with the connections, but we're going to see that go directly against our energy bill. So at that point, your savings are going to be $30,000 or $40,000 on an annual basis. So the intent would be that 25 years comes, we say, no joy, we're done with it, come get it. But really we work out an agreement where they'll leave it in place. It won't cost us anything and we'll keep operating the system.
This is Mike. I thought the life of solar panels was 25 years, period.
That's what they really deem it. These panels are 35 to 40 years. I've done a lot of work with St. Cloud. They've have some panels in place. They've had them for, I think it's 17 years now. They feel northern climates are more conducive to extended life on solar panels because you don't have that long period of high intensity heat, which degrades the panels quicker. So they're seeing longer life and higher productivity out of these panels. So even with the degradation charts that we're looking at, we feel confidently at 25 years, at a bare minimum, you're going to see at least 80% production out of these solar panels. So I wouldn't even, the technology would have to be astronomical to make us want to change out the panels at 25 years, because the cost of doing that and recycling the old panels would be cost prohibitive to make it work out. I think you could keep these in play and start seeing because the power produced then is directly against your meter. You don't have to pay anybody else for that power produced like you do for the first 25 years. So I think they pack up their tent and leave town in year 20 and go out of business. Another investor is probably going to try and pick up the rest of that term. Otherwise, we could look to buy it out early. We do have buyout options at year 6 and year 10 if we choose to do so. But you're still talking about $800,000 for initial investment. So I wouldn't recommend that unless things drastically change for us in the future.
Okay, one other question. So what is the cost of recycling, getting rid of these after they are wore out?
I don't know what that is going into the future. There is it started over in Europe and it's coming to the States right now where they have mobile recycling plants. The research that I've looked at says 95% of the components are readily available for recycling. I don't know what the other ones. So in essence, saying 95% of the panels would go to reproduction uses and not into a landfill. But like I said, the panels coming up in, you would be hard pressed to take these things down even based on the data that we have and the years of service of these panels, you'd be hard pressed to take these things down at 40 years, let alone 25 years.
Okay. Well, 40 years, I don't think I'll be around. So. So I won't have to worry about that.
Well, again, I'm joking with the company that 25 years from now, I'm probably not going to be employed by the city, but that doesn't matter. I want to make sure that we're leaving a legacy that's going to keep the city in good position. And I feel very confident. I wouldn't have brought this to you guys tonight and tried to push it in before the end of the year if we weren't confident. Greg and I have spent a lot of time going back and forth on this, and I know he supports it as well from that standpoint. So I just believe it's an opportunity to pick up, on average, $15,000 of savings a year for our citizens. I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll make a motion to pass resolution 2103.
This is Becky. I'll second that.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Mr. Knudsen.
All right, thanks, Council. We appreciate it.
On to administrator and staff reports. The suspension of rules extension with Ms. Phillipson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this past summer, we had adopted this suspension of rules kind of as the local response to some of the executive orders relating to COVID. The current suspension of rules does expire at the end of this month, so we are proposing this extension through the end of March. At that time, we can look at where we're at again for another possible extension, or we can loosen some of these suspensions as well earlier if needed. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, resolution 20-101 is recommended.
Marie, has there been any issues with any of the signs, especially going into the snow removal portion of the season?
Maybe if Chris or Phil know of anything with snow removal. Otherwise, the suspension of rules does not allow for them within the right of way. So if there are still issues with that, this does allow us to still move those. It just allows them for the zoning piece. So sizes, the number of signs, stuff like that would be more flexible with this.
I haven't heard of any issues related to that at all.
Okay. And then March was chosen just for
With the last extension, we did it on a quarterly basis. So with this one, that's why we chose March again, kind of keep it quarterly. And also just kind of seasonality of it as well. We thought that was kind of a good stopping point between seasons to see what local businesses were doing as well.
Perfect. Any other questions from council? All right, how does council wish to proceed?
This is Robin. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2101, suspension of the rules, extension.
This is Becky. I'll second that.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Marie. Supplemental letter agreement with SCH for 2020 trunk utilities study with Ms. Flipson.
Thank you again. This past couple of months, the city, along with the county, has been working with a consultant on a housing study, which we are wrapping up. And part of that discussion led into the parts of town that are prime for some of that housing development. So specifically, two parts of town, one known as Evergreen Park North. So this is closer to Edgewood and Highway 10, right behind the commercial district. And the second area being mostly on the east side of the Elk River. So this study with SCH would take into account or analyze what additional infrastructure would be needed from the trunk. So kind of that oversized, larger infrastructure to serve those two areas, and then break it down into the associated charges or fees for the area. So really earlier in the evening, Julie had the public hearing for that fee schedule. And there are charges on there that identify the trunk fees. So this would help us understand if those fees are adequate or the direction we would need to go with those as well. So it helps us understand the infrastructure needed and then kind of the fees associated with it. So the supplemental agreement is included within the packet. So it does outline, it's about $59,900 for the not to exceed portion. And then they also call out just under $500 for some of the extra expenses and equipment. So I did include that within the RCA as well for the Future Improvements Fund budgetary impact. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, Resolution 20-102 would be appreciated.
Any questions? Seeing none, how does council wish to proceed?
This is Robin. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 20-102.
This is Becky. I will second.
Motion from Robin, second from Becky. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, Mr. Przezinski.
Madam Mayor, City Council, thank you. Consent agenda for December 15th, 2020. Item number 1, hiring and termination reports for our Public Works and Becker Community Center. Item number 2, job description updates. New job description, and there's a hiring request within there. Job description updates include maintenance worker, the second one, streets and parks operations lead, and then the third one is wastewater operations lead. Item number 3 on the consent agenda, vacation policy update, and there was some overlapping of dates, so we wanted to clarify that. Item number 4, and this is leading up to our insurance renewal, which will come up in February. This is the waiver of statutory tort liability limits. We are recommending to the City Council that we do not waive those limits. I know that's an ongoing conversation. It's an annual decision by the City Council. But again, by adopting the consent agenda, you would not be waiving that statutory tort limit. And then item number 5 is our comments to the Upper Midwest Integrated Resource Plan 2020-34. Remember, we've had a brief discussion about that, but if you have any questions or comments about any of those items on the consent agenda, I could answer those. Otherwise, a motion to adopt the consent agenda for December 15th, 2020 would be appreciated.
This waiver, we do that every year. We always don't waive it?
We do not waive that, Mike. That is correct.
Because if we did waive it, if there was a suit, they could sue for more. Is that what it is? Or something to do?
Yep, that is one of the things that would happen if you waive that.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make it clear, be clear on that. So.
If you waive it, your liability increases. So this is a way for us to manage that liability.
Okay.
Any other questions from council?
This is Mike. I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
This is Robin. I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor may state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Payment of the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I will second that. This is Robin.
Motion from Becky, second from Robin. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes. Well, it's the end of the 2020 year, so we hope that everybody can have the best holiday season and we will be back and see you live, hopefully, if not by Zoom, on January 5th. So does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker this evening? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
This is Mike. I move we adjourn.
Becky, I'll second.
Motion from Mike, second from Becky. Those in favor may state aye. Tracy, aye.
Robin, aye.
Mike, aye.
Becky, aye.
Motion passes and we are adjourned at 5:39 p.m.